Welcome to everybody, whatever time zone you're in. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. And thank you for joining us. Everything you wanted to know about Kabbalah, but were afraid to ask. And so with this open forum that we do, we take any and all questions that you want to ask. You don't have the opportunity to ask about Kabbalah in general, but we also like to gear it towards, each time we do it, a specific topic that we can dwell on and focus upon, but don't feel limited. But, today's open forum Q&A is going to be about the ravages of guilt and how it tortures us, and what can we do about it? Why does guilt exist? Where does it come from? And most important, how can we eradicate guilt and shame from our lives? So on that note, and also, if you're asking a question, and please feel free to do it by video or audio, because we'd love to see everybody. If you're asking a question and you're brand new to Kabbalah, to this wisdom, let me know. So when I give you an answer, I won't assume you've been around for a few years, and I can give you a much more broader context to understand the answer that I'll share. And if I do know you already, and I know you've been around, I'll address your question with the appropriate answer. But I'm still going to try and broaden it for people who are here for the first time. So, bear with me if I repeat things you may have heard a million times over the last 5, 10, 20 years. Listen, for me, I've heard secrets, just life lessons from my teacher, Kabbalist Rav Berg, for 30 years. And it was always the last time that I heard it, that was the most profound, because I understood it on a deeper level every time. So if you do hear me repeat something, or you hear a Kabbalah teacher that you have repeat something you've heard before, if it doesn't sound new, or if there's not something new about it, then you're not growing. If it's like, oh, I heard it before, I don't want to hear, then not a good sign that you're evolving on this path and getting, the results that you want in your life. So having said that, let's begin. We know, for those who are here for the first time, or just one of the first few times, when we know something is bad for us, we know it. And then another voice says, do it anyways. And we watch ourselves doing something we know we don't want to do, not just because not morally we know we shouldn't, but we really don't want to, and we do it anyways. Where does that voice come from? And when we know something is really positive and beneficial in our life, there's another voice that makes us procrastinate and put it off. We get addicted to junk food or drugs pretty quickly, but we don't get addicted to things that are good for us, like steamed zucchini and broccoli. You got to acquire a positive habit. Now, why is that? Why is the human being fine-tuned to become addicted to all things harmful in a snap, and yet to acquire positive habits takes extreme dedication and discipline and time? Why? Who balanced us that way? So in Kabbalah, we learn that there is a second voice that was created that doesn't belong to us. It's an opponent. It's an adversary that we play against in this game of life. So the analogy I always use, if you want to be a great goal scorer in hockey or soccer, you're not going to practice on an empty net taking shots. You need a goalie, someone opposing you, that will help you evolve your skill, develop your skill, refine your skill, perfect your skill. The better the goalie, the better goal scorer you'll become. We came to be great goal achievers, goal scorers in the game of life, to achieve our goals. But we have an opponent playing against us so that we can perfect our skill and perfect our methodology and evolve and develop the strength to accomplish the goal by overcoming that inner voice, that opponent, that goalie in the mind blocking us every chance he gets. And the reason for this is to give us the opportunity to feel worthy, to savor the delicious taste of accomplishment. Instead of just the creator, that divine force that is the source of all, pleasure, fulfillment, success, money, love, everything we want. Instead of him just giving it to us carte blanche, free, like a charitable handout, we are here so that we could become the actual cause and creators of the fulfillment that the creator already created. We said, keep it. We're going to try and connect to that fulfillment and bring into this world through our own effort. So that's where that second voice comes from. It comes from what's called the opponent. And if you're here for the first time, this is described in the Old Testament by the Hebrew word Satan. In English, it's Satan. Satan means an opposite or opposing force of consciousness that plays the game of life against us, trying to sabotage us, trying to make us fail, stumble, fall, and screw up big time. And it's a relentless force. It is a bloodthirsty, force that will do whatever it takes, because in this world, the goal is immortality. And therefore, the opponent is going to try and ignite death. The goal is infinite fulfillment. And therefore, the opponent, the opposite of infinite fulfillment, is infinite depression. So, this opponent works three ways. Number one, it uses every deceptive technique to make you fall, make you react, make you give in to his voice and command and instructions. So if you feel guilty or shame, or you cheat somebody, or you lose your temper and you yell at your partner, your kids, your friends, your spouse, any negative action you do, the opponent is the source, the trigger that pushes your button. Now, every time there is, I'll use the word infraction, there is a heavenly court, and I hate the word heavenly, but there is a metaphysical force in existence that is a reflection of the court system down here. Our court system is a reflection of the upper courts, where all of our actions are judged every day. So this negative force called the opponent is the one that prosecutes us in the upper courts. So number one, he gets you to commit the sin. Number two, he then prosecutes you in the heavenly court to get a verdict against you. And if he succeeds, he's also the executor. He executes the judgment. Even if that judgment is death, therefore he's also known as the angel of death. So he gets you to commit a sin, he prosecutes you for it, and then if he gets a decree of judgment against you, he executes that judgment. And that's why people die of cancer, heart attacks, car accidents, COVID, whatever it is. What happens in the physical world is only the effect of what took place in the metaphysical world in the upper court. Because each time, and we're going to use the word sin, I hate that word. It really, it really means the best word is really, I react. React to what? To the voice in my head. Every time you react to the voice in your head, that's an infraction. So if somebody aggravates you and they cheat you in business and you find out about it, it's not really that person that you're reacting to. You're reacting to the voice in your head that says, react to that person. Subtle nuance, right? Stock market goes up, you make a ton of money. It's not the upward climb of the stock market and that increased profits that really made you react. It's the voice saying, get excited. You just made a lot of money. He wants you to react to even good news, because then you're under his control. So in Kabbalah, we learn, stop the reactions We have to proact and be balanced. Don't overreact to good news. Don't overreact to bad news. That's the game of life. And he is playing all three roles. He incites reactions. He prosecutes you for your reactions. And when they, listen carefully, this is the most important part. When they accumulate, as they accumulate, there reaches a point in a person's life when you reach a threshold of reactions that there's so much negative decrees against you, you've reached, quote unquote, the death sentence. We die because of when we age, because of the accumulation of a reactive behavior. And now his job, the opponent, is to make you doubt what I just said. He's going to make you think it's cancer, it's the food you eat, it's the random car accident, it's the drug overdose. No, that's the stupidity. No, it's about reactions and their cumulative effect in our life. Therefore, if we remove that force called Satan from our consciousness, that's when we live forever. That's called Messiah. Okay, so that's Kabbalah 101. So now you know he incites your behavior to sin. 2, he prosecutes your sin. 3, he executes judgment against you for it. Now, here is his biggest weapon. Once you've learned what I just told you, and whether you learned it or not, but this learning it only magnifies it, when you do commit a sin, worse than falling down, spiritually speaking, falling in the game of life, worse than falling is the guilt and shame you feel afterwards. That's worse. And the reason that guilt and shame are worse is because they paralyze you and lock you in a state of stagnation so you won't change. You feel it's hopeless. You beat yourself up worse than the negative force can beat you up, because he doesn't want you to change. He wants you to keep falling, and to keep you from getting back up, he gives you guilt. That's the source of our guilt. That's the source of our shame. It's his voice whispering in your mind, igniting those feelings that consume you of guilt. And he's also the force that will make you forget what I just told you tomorrow, so that when you have a reason to feel guilty, he's going to unleash that reason. He's going to unleash the emotions attached to that so-called reason, so that you're consumed and swallowed up in guilt. So you'll forget about even the lessons. It's a tough game, this game of life, but the rewards are infinite. The rewards last forever. The rewards are eternal. Now, before we open up the forum, I want to share with you the secret, the absolute secret to flushing all that guilt down the toilet, how to get rid of it. I will quote a movie, but it actually came from a poet before the movie. The movie actually quoted the poet who lived, I don't know, I forget, 50 years ago, maybe longer, maybe even in the 19th century. But the quote is, "The greatest trick the devil ever pulled on humanity was convincing us he doesn't exist." Now, what does that mean? Kabbalist Rav Ashlag, the founder of the Kabbalah Center in 1922, the teacher of my teacher's teacher, Kabbalist Rav Berg's teacher was Rav Yehuda Brandwein. Rav Brandwein's teacher was the great Kabbalist named Rav Ashlag. Don't worry if you've never heard of them. You can look them up after. Profound mystics, profound Kabbalists beyond measure. Rav Ashlag explains in his writings, you are not going to defeat the opponent. He's too strong. We are not here to defeat the opponent. We are here to recognize and identify the opponent in our life. That's it. Then the light of the creator, the light of the force we call God, this divine supernal energy, then that light comes in and it takes down the negative force on your behalf. But that light force of God can only enter into your life when you identify the opponent. You know, the force called Satan is up in the heavenly court identifying you. He's prosecuting his case against you for every reaction you did today. Whatever reactions you did today, large or small, you're being prosecuted at the speed of light. There's no time up in the heavenly courts. So you're being prosecuted. So when things just start to go wrong, little things means those are decrees of judgment for the little reactions you did. Something big goes wrong, it's for the big reactions. Something humongous and life-changing goes wrong, it's the cumulative effect of all your negative reactions or some big negative reaction you did. Okay? So he's identifying you. Our job to get rid of Satan is identify the opponent. And that is the hardest thing on earth to do, because he makes us deny his existence, or he blinds us to his existence, or he makes us forget about his existence, or he ignites such a reaction, we say, the hell, I don't even believe it, it's me. And when we say it's me who's really mad, and we're not saying it's the opponent making me mad, we are now one with the opponent. There's no separation. We came to only achieve a separation between ourselves and the force called the opponent. So when you're consumed in guilt, you have to identify the opponent. And when you know he's the cause of your guilt, automatically your guilt will be gone. If it's not gone, you didn't identify him yet. You truly don't believe he exists, and it's him. Because if you really saw him, you wouldn't react. So if we're reacting, but we know intellectually, there's an opponent. Intellectually knowing his opponent, it's a nice step, and it'll work at the beginning, but you have to go beyond intellect. You have to get to a state of consciousness where you know, not you believe it's the opponent, you know. And in your life, the places where you know it's the opponent igniting your reaction, igniting your guilt, igniting your shame, you won't have it. It doesn't take an effort to get rid of it. It leaves automatically the moment you recognize and identify the opponent. Hope this is making sense. Now, here's the key. Here's why it works. Here's the real beauty underlying Kabbalist Rav Ashleg's brilliant teaching. It's based on quantum physics. Google it or take my course, Adam and Eve, if you want to go into a great detail about what I'm going to share with you. Modern day physics says, if you're not looking at the moon, it doesn't exist, period. If you're not looking at a refrigerator in the kitchen right now, it doesn't exist. It becomes an invisible wave. It's known as the particle wave duality or matter wave duality. If you're not looking at solid matter, that matter disappears into an invisible wave. It doesn't exist in this physical world. It's only human consciousness, observation, that makes the wave, in the language of physics, collapse into your refrigerator, into the moon. And Einstein had a difficult time accepting this. Einstein used to say, and I'm quoting, "I like to think the moon is there even if I'm not looking at it." And then after Einstein left this world, physicists then said, "Einstein, the moon is not there." They've proven it, and we're using the moon metaphorically. It means anything in this physical world, if consciousness is not observing, connecting to an object, it doesn't exist. This is why the greatest trick that Satan, the negative force, ever pulled on humanity is to make us believe he doesn't exist. Because if you don't believe he exists, he doesn't exist. Meaning He becomes you. You can't make the separation. He's hidden in the upper world, and he doesn't have any place in the physical world that you can identify. And now you're his slave. And what's the worst kind of slave? The worst slave is the one who doesn't even know he's enslaved. We must recognize the Satan, because the moment we do, he's got existence. Now the light comes in, bam, like a heat-seeking missile, takes him out. It's freaking brilliant. I hope you people are going, whoa, if you really think about it, study physics. This is the key. You have to identify him, but he's not going to let you. He's got these weapons called denial, self-denial, skepticism, cynicism. Oh, and he created this idea of a devil and Satan. And it sounds like malarkey and nonsense, and it is. But to know the true role of Satan, to identify and make, boom, he has existence, light comes in, bam, he's taken out. Terminated. Like the light is like a drone that drops a bomb on that force called Satan. That's the key. And the reason it's so hard to do it is because he makes it impossible. It's a weapon he has called doubt. And actually, doubt isn't a weapon. Doubt is his very radiance. This is the last point I'm going to make, and then we're going to open up the forum. If I put on some perfume and I come close to you, you can smell the perfume. If I come closer, the scent becomes stronger. If I'm even more closer and we're embracing, wow, you can really smell the perfume. And if I'm across the room, maybe you can get a faint smell. But if I'm in another room, you can't even detect me. You don't smell the perfume. Satan radiates the perfume, the scent of doubt. So here's the paradox. The closer you get to identifying him, the stronger your doubt. Theoretically, you can't ever really get to him because you have so much doubt, you won't believe he's there. The closer you're going to nail him, oh, it's him, your doubt becomes even bigger because you're getting closer to him and he's radiating doubt. That's his essence. That's his body odor. So therefore, we need tools. We need tools to help us overcome the doubt. We can't do it on our own. It's logically impossible to get that close. So there's a bridge. Those bridges are the Hebrew letters, the 72 names of God, the book called Zohar, which means Zohar means radiance. It's the light that, neutralizes the doubt. So you can get close to him, identify him, then the light comes in and takes him out. That's what the reading of the Torah scroll, the Old Testament, it's a technology, it's a weapon of war. It's not some religious, artifact that we do because our fathers did it and their fathers did it. What a corruption. Satan created the concept of religion. There is no religion. There is a pathway to the light. And the pathway is for having weapons of war, boom, take down Satan, my opponent, every step of the way. But we don't take him down with violence, we take him down with love. We take him down with actions of love and light. And the Torah scroll brings light into this physical reality. The 72 names of God takes down Satan in this reality, brings light to get rid of the doubt. Learning the teachings of Kabbalah, the teachings themselves are light. So you're now being imbued with light right now that's coming from the Zohar, from Rav Ashlag, from Kabbalist Rav Berg, all the way back to Moses, all the way back to the Creator who gave us the book of Zohar. So just when you learn a concept, just a simple concept, that's light in your consciousness. So as you get close to Satan, to outing Satan, identifying him, you'll have enough light in you, you will neutralize the fragrance, the scent of doubt. You won't be overwhelmed by his scent of doubt. The light will neutralize it. You'll be able to say, it's my Satan that's making me react. It's not me. My soul doesn't cry. If I'm crying, it's my ego. It's Satan. And I mean when we're crying out of victimhood, not when we're crying over the pain of others. Crying over the pain of others are tears from the soul. Crying for our own pain is a form of reactive. Don't take me literally, there's always exceptions. So that's the teaching for today. That's the wisdom. I encourage you to listen to it a few times, but now let's open up the floor for your questions.
Okay, I want to start with Michael's question because it's strictly related to what you just said. Please, Michael, you can ask by audio and video. It will be a pleasure to hear from you.
Sure. Okay. Thanks, Billy, and thanks, Moshe. Yeah, I think my mind is wrestling with the relationship between Satan and the ego. I mean, the ego's with us every day, and you know, Billy, you've just said, of course, that the Satan is with us every day, right by our elbow. So, how do those two relate?
So they're on one level, they're one and the same. So we don't take society's definition of ego. We're taking the kabbalistic definition of ego. Now, let me go a little bit deeper. When we, the souls of humanity, were created, we were created with what's called the desire to receive. And we had to have a desire to receive in order to want to enjoy and attract the light's will to share. Right? So, you know, analogy, you know, Kabbalist Rebbe used to say, you know, if you're walking in the street and you see someone at the bus stop wanting to cross the road and you want to help her cross the road, and she says, no, leave me alone. I don't want to cross the road. He goes, no, I want to help you, please. It's my pleasure. She goes, no, leave me alone. I'm waiting for a bus. I don't need to cross the road. You can't share. There's got to be desire. If she really has desire to cross the road and you helped her, sharing action. So what the Creator created was it's called a vessel to receive that which the light is sharing. I can enjoy it. So we must have a desire to draw light. But then another phase happened. I'm not going to go into the details. But the DNA of the vessel was changed from desire to receive into desire to receive for the self alone. That additional DNA is the Satan. So the ego is not necessarily a bad thing, just like desire to receive isn't a bad thing. If you don't desire, Rabbi Ashlag says you won't even lift a baby finger. You do everything you do is because you have a desire to do something. You open up your fridge because you want to eat. You don't just walk by and open a fridge and then close it for no reason. Everything we do is desire. But the desire mutated, a variant, if you will, from desire to receive to desire to receive for the self alone. So it's like the ego, you use it like driving a car. You step on the gas and use your ego to get out there and succeed. But then you take your foot off the gas, you put on the brake. So it's not desire to receive for the self alone. There's some measure of sharing, receiving for other people as well. And that's very general. So when we talk about ego in Kabbalah, we mean ego desire to receive for the self alone. Those are the reactions we cannot control. A businessman could be super proactive, but he's driven by ambition. Nothing wrong with that. But if he's completely reactive and hurting people along the way, same ambition with the additional DNA for the self alone. That Satan is making him react every step of the way. So it's not that the ego is bad. It's that the ego out of control, the ego on steroids is what is bad. And that's the opponent. That was created on purpose so that we could achieve by defeating the ego along the way, the negative aspect of the ego. Michael, does that help?
Yeah, greatly. Thank you. Yeah, thanks.
Okay. Listen to it again.
Will do.
Okay. Questions?
We have two questions, which I think are on the two extremes of the, how to call it? It slipped my mind.
Spectrum.
Yes, of the spectrum. And now I would like to raise the questions myself because Adriana and Stacy are raising these two questions. So reaction. Billy, what about grief when you have just suffered a tragic loss? Is it okay to react and grieve? And Adriana is asking about reacting to good news of good health in people. So even reacting to good news of good health in people is also reacting.
So those are beautiful questions. And that's what today is really all about. How do we understand guilt, shame, reaction, tragedy, grief, right? I said earlier, there are tears we can shed on behalf of the pain of others. But what happens, God forbid, when we lose a loved one and we start reacting with grief? That's not a reaction. There is a metaphysical force called grief, pain, that we came to this world to experience because we lost immortality, right? We had immortality and we said, no, we want to achieve it through our own effort. That's why death was created on one level. So when someone passes, there is a process we go through, and someone who grieves will tell you it's not intellectual. It's from the soul. We grieve from the inside out. We don't grieve from the outside in. Some people do. Some people fake it. If someone has died, they put all this dramatic effect and they're crying, sobbing. They're really happy the person's dead. That's grieving from the outside in. That is somebody who's reacting. True grieving comes from the inside out. And that is, for lack of a better word, a healthy process we must go through. And I experienced it myself. It was fascinating because when my mother passed about 4 years ago, actually her anniversary is coming up in about a week and a half. When my mother passed, it just was, I said 3-4 years ago, she passed on Mother's Day. She passed on, she was buried on Mother's Day, and burial is very important in Kabbalah, the date. She was buried on Mother's Day. She was buried on my 33rd wedding anniversary. She was buried on the 33rd day of the Omer. For Christians, this is the time from Easter, from Passover to Pentecost. For Jews, it's a time from Passover to Shavuot. We count the Omer. The 33rd day is the most important. It's the day of the Zohar, the day Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, the author of Zohar, left this world. So 33rd day of the Omer, 33rd wedding anniversary, Mother's Day, and Karen Berg, my teacher, happened to be in Israel at the tomb, the connection portal for Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, texted me at the funeral, making a blessing for my mother. So it's like, wow, what a blessing. And she passed on, as Shabbat was arriving on Friday. And therefore she couldn't be buried on Saturday because it was the Sabbath. She had to be buried on the 33rd day of the Omer. So everything just aligned. I got goosebumps now telling you the story. Everything just aligned perfectly. So I'm going, wow, look at Kabbalah. So I shouldn't be upset. I should be happy she's there. And part of me I was happy. She was, that she got to leave with such protection and power. And when I took the shovel, I told this to my son the other day, my youngest son, Kobe, who's in from New York. I told him the story. When I took the shovel and I threw dirt on her coffin, I felt the metaphysical energy, and I could see, and it's going to be hard to articulate it, but I could see this is technology. This is a process that I have to go through spiritually, internally. It's not just some physical action. There's something deep going on here. Dust to dust, burying the body, grounded. It was crazy. And I would have moments where I was shedding, I was sobbing. And yet I'm happy at the same time. Happy meaning that I made this connection through the wisdom of Kabbalah of my mother for her to have the merit to go down on that day, to leave on the Sabbath. Because when you leave on the Sabbath, you go straight up. You go straight up. No cleansing process, which is really funny. By the way, my mother said she was in a coma, not coma, comish, in and out, drifting. 2 days or 3 days before she left, she said out loud, my sister was in the room, she said to my stepfather, her husband, who's already up there, she said, his name is Bill. She goes, Bill, I'll see you on Sunday. And it was on Sunday that she left. It was crazy. And she was talking to, she saw all of her relatives. She was talking, from the semi-comatose state, talking to them. So, and the Zohar says they come to greet you. So she was seeing it already. So I was so happy that there is another world. We're not really saying goodbye. This is the lesson Kabbalist Ravberg pounded into our brains. There's no death, but it is a process and illusion we must go through. So I felt the pain of this illusion. And I saw we must grieve. Just can't say, I'm happy, I study Kabbalah, I know there's another realm, I know she's up there, what am I crying for? No, that's a denial. Have to be at two places at the same time. So to answer the question, grieving is not reacting when it comes from the soul and you're grieving inward and outward. If good news happens, all you have to do, it's going to sound simple, but it's not easy because it's consciousness, not intellect. When good news happens, is take a moment and thank the Creator, meaning acknowledging where it came from. And just say, I want to be balanced, I don't want to overreact. But be happy, celebrate, enjoy, but make the connection to upstairs. You're not reactive. If you're under control and you think you did it and you're over the top reaction, not good. Because then when there's bad news, you're going to react in the opposite way. So if you stay balanced when there's good news, you will be balanced automatically when there's not so good news, challenging news.
So it's Stacey and Adriana, if you can write in the chat if that answered both of your questions. Thank you for asking. I'm going to ask Lorraine. She has her hands digitally raised here. So Lorraine, tell us where you're connecting from, if it's your first time or not, and you may ask your question, please.
Good evening, guys. My name's Lorraine. I'm from Manchester, UK, and it's not my first time connecting. My question really is relating to, first of all, the red strings that we wear in Kabbalah on the left wrist. Does that have anything to do with the ego? And secondly, I never know how to pronounce this word, but is it tefillin that the Orthodox Jewish people wear? Has that got anything to do with the ego? And also the sacrifice of Isaac, has that got anything to do with the ego?
So regarding the tefillin, the right side of our body channels, almost like chakras, the right side of our body channels the light force. The left side of our body is our desire. Remember we said there's desire, and then there's also desire received for the self alone. The tefillin, those leather straps, are constructed, it's technology, to bind the desire to receive for the self alone. The DNA letters that make us for the self alone, the reactions. So yes, it's the control, because that's another tool. Remember, say, how do we control? How do we control the desire received for the self alone? The reactions. You need to bind its force of intelligence, its consciousness. Binding the left hand is like binding that chakra that channels desire received for the self alone. And when you do it every day, you'll have a more balanced day. That's what it's for. The red string, no, only to protect you from evil eye. Why evil eye? Now you can understand it from a quantum physics standpoint. Consciousness creates reality. Someone looks at you with negativity, they're transferring that negativity over to you, whether they want to or not. Because now their consciousness is intermingling with your consciousness. And so the red string, red being the lowest color frequency, attracts the negativity like a vaccination, like the Moderna, Pfizer vaccination. You take a little bit of the negativity, it takes it for you to protect you, vaccinate you from the negative consciousness of people looking at you. So it's not really related to ego, per se. It's just to keep negative forces away from you, which could affect your ego. So in a way, it does protect you from ego, because if you're consumed by negative people, negative forces around you, you're going to react more. So by intercepting those forces, it strengthens your will to resist the reaction. What did you say about Isaac? You had a question about, you had three questions, red string.
If the tefillin has anything to do with the sacrifice of Isaac.
Yes, yes. Yes. You're sacrificing the ego. Because Abraham is the right column, the right positive force of the light force of creation. Isaac is called left column, that's desire. And the center, your free will consciousness, is Jacob. So Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob are codes for the three forces of consciousness that flow through everyone. To take the Torah literally, I'm quoting the Zohar, and I'm quoting one of the church fathers of Christianity. You're an idiot. Not me, I didn't say it, they say it. Okay.
Christina has raised her hands digitally. Christina, let us know where you're connecting from, and you may ask your question, please.
Hello, Billy. Sorry, I cannot have my camera on. I'm in Jacksonville. I have a question. When you were talking about people dying and something like that, and that's the question I also had with somebody else. I asked the same question. Because basically, what happens when people die? How long does it take for them to come back to Earth? Does everybody come back or not necessarily?
So the simple answer is, and it's complicated when you go into the true structure of the human soul, so we won't get complicated, and it's above my pay grade to go into the deeper levels of the human soul and how it works. If you want to go deeper, I refer you to the writings of the 17th century Kabbalist Chaim Vital, student of Kabbalist Rav Isaac Luria. He wrote a whole book on it. But in a nutshell, we all came to this world to experience a lifetime to achieve a certain amount of restrictions against our reactive behavior. Sometimes we succeed, sometimes we don't. Sometimes we fall, we resist our guilt, we get up and we transform and we fix the negative trait within us that made us react. Now, all the parts of your soul that did its transformation, it stays upstairs. The only part of our soul, sparks that come back to this world, are the parts that didn't achieve their transformation. So the only part of your soul that returns is that which needs to be corrected. So there's a part of you right now upstairs that's corrected, looking down. And there's a part of you, which is you right now, that still has work to do. And the fact that you're hearing this and the fact that you found this path means, wow, you have a good shot of achieving, it's called in Kabbalah, tikkun, which means fixing, repairing your karma. And once you repair it, you don't have to come back to this crazy world anymore. You're upstairs in a holding pattern, waiting for the rest of the world to finish the transformation of the world. And when they do achieve that critical mass of transformation, then the curtain comes down and upstairs and downstairs become one floor. All becomes one reality, and it's beyond happily ever after. We can't even imagine it. So they're upstairs now waiting for you to do your job, waiting for me to do my job. And sadly, 95% of the world has no idea what the hell I'm talking about. They don't even know the role of Kabbalah. They don't know the role of the Zohar. They don't know Jesus' connection to the Zohar. They don't know Islam's connection to the Zohar, to the meaning of life, to what we're really doing here, right? We have no idea what the meaning of life is. People say, live for today. Idiots. They're going to keep coming back and suffering. Because if you don't transform, your ego, the world transforms you through pain and suffering. Are you driving?
No, I'm not driving.
Okay, good. I say, don't drive.
Very deep. Thank you so much. So
Thank
basically, we have little pieces of us. Our essence is up there.
Yes.
The ones that already have paid the tikkun.
Yes.
And the part that is not tikkun free yet is here.
Yes.
Wow. how do we know what part of the tikkun we have to clean up here so we don't have to come back anymore?
Wherever you're reacting in your life.
Long list.
And that's why we have this path. Because when if you're walking in a room and it's pitch black and there are pieces of glass and rocks and sharp objects, and you walk through the dark, you're going to hurt yourself. You're going to bump into a rock, you're going to step on a piece of, but if you can shine a flashlight, you see where you got to avoid. When you do this path, you draw light, not, oh, look, I'm in Kabbalah, I'm so happy now with this light. No, first it says, you got to repair this. And now you got to repair that. And now you got to repair this. And many people in this path say, I don't want this path, it's too hard. Their ego freaks out and they bolt.
Thank you, Christina. We have Dale. I'm not sure if they can ask by audio. Please, Dale, if you can tell us where you're connecting from. You wrote questions here on the chat. Oh, he left. Okay. But it was a great question, Billy. I think I want to raise that question. There are times I read or hear a message on Kabbalah, and being a Jesus follower, I think this teaching or this text is a mute point because of what Jesus accomplished on the cross. Can you share any insight?
Sure. Where's the Messiah? Where's the world peace? How many people have died since Jesus, had his experience 2,000 years ago? How many tears have fallen? How much blood has been spilled? How much corruption has there been in Judaism, Christianity, and Islam over all this time? What was accomplished? What was accomplished was the protection of Kabbalah so that it wouldn't be lost, because Christianity became a reservoir to hide the teachings that Jesus gave to his disciples because of the negative behavior of the Jews. We lost the ability through the destruction of the temple 2,000 years ago, the killing of Jesus, the killing of Rabbi Akiva, the killing of Rabbi Ishmael and all the Kabbalists. The destruction that happened 2,000 years ago meant we had 2,000 more years of transformation to go. And the reason we've had 2,000 years of bloodshed and death and suffering and tears flowing is because this wisdom, this secret teaching that Jesus gave his disciples, which was Zohar, never reached the masses because of the sin, the negative behavior of the Jews of that time period, which was us, reincarnated. So how do you reconcile it? Take Unredacting Jesus and learn the secret of the cross, learn the secret of Jesus, learn the secret of Golgotha, learn the secret of the Trinity, and you will begin to understand that now we have an opportunity to fulfill the mission of Jesus, because his mission was not fulfilled because of the behavior of the people. And Jesus himself said, when his students asked him, why are you speaking in parables to the masses, but you're giving us the secrets? He said, the masses aren't ready. I speak in parables so they'll hear, but they won't understand. Why would he do that? Because of our actions. So it's our fault, especially if you're on this path, that the mission of Jesus, the mission of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, of the Zohar, Moses, the mission of world peace, immortality, Messiah, has not been achieved because of us, because of our lack of wisdom in Kabbalah, Zohar, the secret teachings, the technology to transform. Harsh, but true.
Okay. Hope he or she gets the response in the recording. We have Beatrice asking a question on the chat. Beatrice, if you can ask by audio and tell us where you're connecting from, please.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. I'm connecting from Uruguay in South America. Hi.
Welcome.
Oh, thank you. Well, I have a question because I've heard many of your videos and audio. They're really nice, and thank you very much for making kabbalistic knowledge understandable. And sometimes I hear the Israelites. So are they actually people from Israel, or are you referring to the people who are seeking in their spiritual path? Like myself, for example. I'm a Catholic because I was born here in Uruguay, and that is the religion of the country, in spite of the fact that, well, religion actually, this is an atheist country specifically, but the people believe in God and in Jesus Christ. And sometimes we are I feel, I wouldn't say for the rest of the people, but I feel kind of lost because the teachings is one thing, religion sometimes is not actually the same. But well, as a matter of fact, when you talk about the Israelites in a certain ways, we also read the Old Testament. So I was asking that question.
Okay, Beatrice, did you take Unredacting Jesus? You take that course?
Yeah. Yes, I did.
Okay. So, I mean, I believe go ahead.
It is a metaphor, actually.
No, not that it's a metaphor. It's that nobody knows who is a true Israelite. Israelite doesn't mean Israel. Israelite means the children of Israel, Israel being Jacob, the children of Jacob. Jacob's name was changed to Israel when he defeated the negative angel of his brother Esau.
Yes.
So Jacob's name was changed. So the children of Israel, or an Israelite, are those who descend from Jacob. Now, the Kabbalists teach nobody knows who's a true Israelite in this world except for Elijah the prophet and the Messiah. So we don't know who's a true Israelite. And I mean biologically, not just spiritually. And it's both. There's spiritual and there's biological. There's blood. We don't know. It's not our business. My job is to fix myself. Now, conversations I have with my teacher, I'll share with you to give you some insight. Kabbalist Ravberg told me that, you know how many Israelites, Jews converted to Christianity, the last 1,000 years and, went to South America and got assimilated. So many people who, South America, Latin America, who come to Kabbalah, it's because their soul is yearning for it. Their karma led them to this path. Why? How? I don't know. Could they be Israelites? Blood, biological? Absolutely. Can they be spiritual Israelites where they were, they're born into a non-Israelite body for the purpose of transforming, converting? Yes. And are there righteous non-Israelites? People who aren't from Jacob, people who come from Ishmael or Esau, etc., who want to come back to this path, not to become an Israelite, but to become attached to the body of humanity. Right? So you've heard me say this many times. The human body has a heart, a liver, a kidney, a spleen, but we're one body. So many non-Israelites come because they're, let's say, for example, they're the kidney and they want to connect to the blood flowing from the heart, Israelites being the heart. And they need that blood flow, that light flow, because they are confused and it's not working. And it's not working because they're not getting the blood flow from the Israelites. We're not doing our job of bringing the light of Zohar to the world. So you'll get Israelites coming back to Kabbalah. You'll get non-Israelites coming back to Kabbalah. You'll get a biological non-Israelites who really are Israelites coming to Kabbalah. You'll get non-Israelites coming to, like, this is the evolution that's taking place. And so what Rav Ashlag teaches, all the world's religions, true religions at their essence, will be here when the Messiah comes. Kabbalah will merely be a universal religion that nourishes all the existing religions.
That's nice.
Like the sun nourishes all nations, all people, all faiths, all genders. This is
Yes.
part of the brainwashing. We got to get out of our heads about the Hebrew language, which is not a feature of Jewish people or Israelis. It's a universal code and communication system. But we gotta remove this, 2,000 years of brainwashing.
It's a pity it's so difficult because it is hard to learn.
Well, who just made you think it's difficult?
Well, I don't know. I tried and it's hard.
Exactly. Who says it has to be difficult? Change yourself. Watch what happens. Make your connection. Look, 19 men changed the world on 9/11 in 2001.
Mhm.
19 people could do the same for the positivity of the world. It can change in 1 hour. Don't listen to the doubts and hopelessness. That's also part of guilt and shame and worry. It's a trick.
Yeah.
It's a trick. It can change in a moment.
Mhm.
But don't
Yeah,
wait
right.
for someone to do it for you. We have to do it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you, Beatrice. Okay, Billy, we have a question from Herman. He said that he had to leave, but he would really like to see the answer in the recording. Is about the Omer. So when is the end of the Omer in our calendar, and the significance of it, or the history behind?
The Omer ends, I believe it's May 16th. It goes 49 days from Passover. I think it's the night of May 16th. The significance, in a nutshell, when the Israelites were freed from the true slavery on Mount Sinai in Egypt, 3,400 years ago, there was such a mass infusion of light through the 10 dimensions, the code of the 10 plagues, the 10 dimensions, that it lit up the world, and the chokehold of Satan around the neck of the Israelites was released, leveling the playing field. That was a free handout by God, because the world reached what's called the 49th gate of negativity. If you hit the 50th, the world is destroyed. So the Creator had to intervene at that moment in history to infuse light into the darkness of this world, to get that chokehold, the death grip off the neck of the Israelites, to level the playing field, because we reached the 49th gate. Now, we have to pay for that infusion of light. We never had a vessel to hold it. The counting, simple counting. Each day, you're building the vessel of the light we got on Passover. And the light that will be shining when Pentecost, Shavuot, arrives, in May, which is, what's Shavuot? What's Pentecost? The revelation on Mount Sinai. So that light comes back into the universe, which could free us, both Passover and Shavuot, free us from the death grip of Satan in our own life. It's a tool. And to bring that light of immortality, add more of that light of immortality into our world, so we can reach that threshold where death will be swallowed up forever.
Last question, you can ask Billy. Carl, you can unmute yourself, please. You can, okay, good, you're on.
Hey, Billy, how are you?
Good, you're our final question of the day.
Perfect. I'm taking the Adam and Eve course, and you spoke about particle being past and present, created by our that the past, present are formed into particles, and the wave is future. How does that relate to the reactive nature on both the past and present particle, as well as the future? If our reactive nature, what is the effect of our reactive nature on that? Or what is the effect of our proactive nature?
Great question. Should have been asked in the live course. Great question. First of all, this was not my quote. I was just sharing the quote of another physicist who's giving us another way to look at it, which I thought was very profound, saying a particle is already the past and the wave represents the future, because only when we interact and have consciousness does that wave, quote unquote, collapse into reality. So whatever's It already existed. It's already a particle because we already brought it into existence. Okay. The future has all possibilities. If we react, then we bring down through, remember, there's two funnels of light. There's the tree of life, which has the 10 dimensions that manifest reality in this world. And there's the tree of good and evil, which is the negative 10 dimensions. When we react, it comes to the negative side. We get a little spark of light, but then it manifests as negativity. So we plant the seed of negativity in this world. And every time we react, that seed of negativity is then going to grow into a tree, and then it's going to bear a fruit. And that fruit is going to be a smack in the head. Now, what's repentance? What does it really mean? It means fix your freaking karma, not I'm sorry, corruption. If you fix the trait that caused, I'll talk in the language of the course, that caused the wave to collapse into a particle that made the seed that's now growing into a tree that's going to bring you a fruit of chaos. If you fix that behavior, you then change the DNA of the seed that you planted. And now that fruit will not be bitter, that fruit will be sweet. I love your question. That's brilliant. To tie those two together,
I think on everyday life, we're, how do you want to say, confronted with issues that we think manifest only in physicality. And so we don't go beyond the physicality because we're stuck in the time and space continuum created by the clock or by some appointment. And so to take comfort in the fact that we can have an impact outside of that time continuum through our actions being proactive and planting that seed, it starts to make a lot more sense, if you understand what I'm saying.
Totally. And if I could just add to that, you create the clock. Our reactive behavior creates time. When we're proactive, we transcend time. That's why when the ego's gone completely, there'll be no more time.
Can you repeat that?
Yes. Yes. The human, and I go into it in the course in Adam and Eve, it's there.
Okay.
The human ego creates time.
Okay.
Every time we react, we actually create time.
Yeah.
Why? If the ego, and it ties into today. If you commit and I'll talk in really simple language. If we commit a sin, we create time. Why? Because we have it's called mercy. If there wasn't time, we get smacked in the head immediately, right? Do a negative action, bam, punch in the face. You'll change your behavior in 1 second, but then you're robotic. When your behavioral change is reactive, that's the paradox. Because you're going to get smacked. Time creates the illusion of free will. It delays the consequence. It delays the repercussions.
I remember that. I remember that. Because at time, the element of time gives us time to correct.
To correct, to repair, exactly.
Well, in that correction, I can go on. But
do it.
In that correction, that span of time in which we realize the wrongs and we correct them through our actions, does that mean that we're going to still suffer the consequence?
No.
Oh, so that can be corrected as well. That can be dismissed.
If you that's the whole idea of identifying Satan. If you identify him and you really become accountable and you feel the pain and you want to change, you don't want to say I'm sorry.
Right.
You want to change. If you change,
Correct.
Change the DNA because there's no time. You go back. The Rav Berg called it back to the future.
Is that I can go on all day, but another follow-up to that then is that what true forgiveness is?
Yes. Yeah, true forgiveness. Yes.
So So related to that, true forgiveness.
Is to forgive yourself.
Yes. Yes. Identifying yourself, then forgiving yourself.
Yes.
Identifying all the warts and all the,
Yes.
you know what I'm saying?
Yes. And it's
Yeah.
not hard, it's not complicated in that, I mean, it's simple, just not easy. Because
Correct.
the universe will keep sending it to you every day. You just got to recognize it.
Correct.
The same problems will repeat. The same people will appear, or the same different people, but with the same issues will appear in your life.
I see.
And all the negative forces is blind us to the fact, so we don't recognize the repeating patterns, and we keep forgetting the repeating patterns, which is why we got to bind. The person brought up the fill-in, just for argument's sake. You got to bind that leather to squeeze that forgetfulness out of myself, to bind it so they can put blindfolds on me. Why I got to sit there and hear that Torah reading, because when those waves of sound wave enter my consciousness, there's more light, and now I will see the obstacles in front of me. I will see the messages being sent to me.
So
we're playing the game of light and darkness. You need light to shine in the darkness to see what I got to fix, which brings more light, and that's more pleasure.
okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you everybody for coming today. Hope to see you very soon. And Moshe, let them know, we got a great course coming up on Islam and Kabbalah. So if you like Unredacting Jesus, this one's going to blow your mind. We're going to do it over, it's going to be 4 intense, high intensity classes that we will do in 2 Sundays, 2 double classes to beat you up with wisdom and knowledge and enlightenment. And yeah, it's a mind blower. So Moshe will give you information if you want to express your interest. Seating will be limited. Love to see you there. And anybody wants to help spread this wisdom, we have the Zohar Task Force. We need people with skills and talents in any area that we can help use to help build the different projects that we're doing to bring this wisdom to the world. Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much to everybody, and have a great weekend.